While lawsuit on, House Speaker John Boehner today saying he is going ahead with a lawsuit against the president over all these executive orders.
What we've seen clearly over the last 5 years is an effort to erode the power of the legislative branch. Standing up and fighting for this is in the best long-term interest of the Congress.
Well, that got a quick response from the White House.
The fact that they are considering a taxpayer-funded lawsuit against the President of the United States for doing his job, I think is the kind of step that most Americans wouldn't support.
All right, the president doing his job or the speaker now taking his case to do his job? Constitution attorney Ilya Shapiro, what do you think?
Well, this is an unprecedented legal theory to go after an unprecedented dereliction of duty to faithfully execute the laws of the land. It's an interesting theory. Basically, the
who's zooming whom here? Who's really doing bad stuff?
It'll be the House of Representatives, or if the Republicans take over the Senate, the entire Congress, as an infringement of their institutional prerogative, their institutional interest in our constitutional separation of powers system, that the president is rewriting the law, suspending the law in violation of the Constitution, and they're going to argue, they're going to pick examples where nobody else has standing if they don't act themselves.
All right, but then they have to go back in history to Republican presidents, including the last one, who had a lot more executive orders, and they're left to slice through, well, but his executive orders weren't nearly as damaging as these. Help me through this.
Well, it's not a matter of who is more damaging. It's a matter of, does anyone else have standing? And they're more like, the House is more likely to get standing if they can satisfy a judge that there's no private party that could sue. Like, for example, the delaying of the employer mandate and rewriting it. Well, that benefits everybody to not have these burdens placed on the American people. And so it's going to be hard to find someone who was harmed by that and therefore can sue. Instead, they're going to sue about this institutional separation of powers.
But, I mean, but in that case, you could just say that he changed the rules. He changed a key tenet of the law itself. You could argue that to your legal point, that would directly or indirectly harm folks. But if it is found not to harm folks and they've just changed what was an agreed upon, signed on to law, isn't that damning?
Well, the president doesn't have the power to change agreed upon law. And if
but
we get past
he did by these changes.
Well, if we get past these standing issues, then yeah, that's what the argument will be about in the courts. And I think the challengers, the plaintiffs, are on much firmer ground there. It's this standing issue, an institutional standing, the use of the bipartisan legal advisory group, perhaps, as was used to defend the Defense of Marriage Act. That is really the novel part here. And if they can convince a court that the House or Congress altogether has standing, then we will argue about whether the president is indeed rewriting the law, suspending the law in derogation of his duty, or whether he actually has wiggle room per the law that Congress passed and the president signed.
All right, Ilya, thank you very, very much. In the meantime, Minnesota Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann on whether Republicans should be very careful what they wish for, because Congresswoman, as I was trying to raise with this constitutional scholar, is Republican steps in as president and Democrats go after he or she on the same principle, then it gets to be just a political football, doesn't it?
Well, very clearly, the American people are absolutely outraged. And the question is, what is it that we can do? Has the president overreached with his power? Absolutely he has. What are the tools available to the United States Congress to help enforce the separation of powers doctrine? In other words, the Constitution is a stop sign for the president, as it is for the Congress, as it is for the Supreme Court. You can't do anything you want. Now,
yeah, what is making Republicans man up? No sexist comment there. Now, I mean, if this has been going on for a long time, and to be fair to you, Congressman, you've been bemoaning it for a long time. Why now the suit? And by the way, we're going to get back in legal, broadsides back and forth. Why not just fix things that are very, very wrong now, rather than dragging someone to court over whether they overstep their bounds? It just seems to me like an enormous waste of effort.
Well, the lawsuit is what you might call a long-term effort if it even gets picked up by a court. A lot of courts might call this a political question. This could drag on for months and we may not get anywhere. Again, it reflects the frustration of the American people.
You just said it, Congresswoman. We might not get anywhere. Now, maybe Republicans are in their right. Maybe the president's within his right. But if the issue is, you know, one side or the other abusing his authority, maybe someone should get to work under the underlying problems that some feel the other side is usurping from it. But we spend too much time arguing, oh, you shouldn't have done that. Oh, we're going to indict you on this. We're going to go back and forth. Fix whatever is wrong right now rather than dragging the other side to court. It just seems to me there's so much wrong here. This finger pointing, we're going to drag your ass to court, we're going to do this. Just do something. You know what I'm saying?
Let me go where you're going, and I agree with you, because this is what we need to do. Hey, this is what Congress can do, and I argue must do. Number one, we need to deny.
Why didn't you do it? Why didn't you do it years ago when you were first raising it?
Criminy, give me a second, and I will tell you.
Why?
Okay,
explain that, Congressman. Why now? Why, after all this time, you've been talking about this for years, now someone just woke up and said, I got an idea, let's sue.
I don't know why John Boehner's filing this now. I have no idea. I called for these measures going back to the State of the Union, and I said that this president is not a king, and the Congress needs to stand up. So why he's doing it now, I don't know. But this is what we should do now. What we should do right now is defund the executive branch when we have the option. I just ran across the street because we're voting on funding for the executive branch all summer long. Cut it. Make it hurt, because if they don't have money, they won't have power. Number two, we need to, where executive branch officials have broken the law, and they have, the IRS gave private donor information to the political friends of this administration. They gave the private donor information
separate
to the political enemies.
Congresswoman, separate issue. You're conflating issues.
No, it isn't.
You're quite right. Where was your rage? Where was your rage, Congresswoman?
Listen.
Where
Let me
was
have
your
1 minute.
rage, Congresswoman? No, you're conflating issues and you're being silly. Where was your rage when Democrats were going after President Bush on the same use of executive orders? Because I think you knew then that was a waste of time then, and I think you know in your heart of hearts this is a waste of time now. There are far more important things that you guys have to be addressing than filing lawsuits past each other. By the way, Rome's burning.
I'm not the one talking about that. What I'm saying is that what's very important is the president trying to establish lawlessness in the United States. That's a big issue.
Democrats said George Bush did the same, Congresswoman. I'm just saying, each side claiming it, waste of time. Waste of time.
So what we need to do is defund the executive branch, number one, and then impeach
think about what you're saying. Defund the executive branch. Congresswoman, if Democrats had said, we're going to just defund President Bush, we're going to defund the executive, you would laugh them out. And so you should have then. And I think Democrats would be in their right mind to laugh you out now. Defund them.
Listen, the House has the power of the purse. This isn't a small power. We can do this, but we can do something further. I hear your frustration.
All right,
what we can do further is impeach the elected officials that have broken the law, and they have.
Rome's burning, and you're filing. All right.
That's
Respectfully
not
disagree.
That's not filing. That's kicking them out of there. What else are we going to do? That is what the Constitution allows.
We'll have more after this.
Well, then what do you do? What do you do?
All right, guys, I apologize if I seem to get a little heat in that segment. I do stand by how heated I got. We were coming up on a hard break, so it looks like I just cut off the Congresswoman. I apologize to her for that. But I don't apologize for my sentiment or the fact that we are wasting time filing lawsuits past one another. Whether one side feels it justified, a lot of Republicans back when George Bush was president didn't feel it was sound when Democrats are going at them for the same thing. These type of charades, and I'm sorry that's what I call them, are just that, charades. Far brighter constitutional scholars tell me they have their place and they have their point. But, you know, I'm looking around and seeing Rome burning, and I think someone should pick up a hose and put out the fire rather than file a suit. See, I'm getting upset again. I'm getting upset again. All right.